All right, so we are here with Brian Bedford, mural
Hi.
painter at Gioia. Brian, say hi to the folks again.
Hello.
All right, and you painted the mural for the event,
Yes, I did. It was a very, very active experience.
right? And you didn't get to finish it the night of because the paint had trouble drying, but
Well, yeah, I mean, I wasn't necessarily convinced I was going to finish it, but I knew I wanted to get a lot up there, and I was lucky enough to be able to get a lot of spatial stuff up there to show kind of the whole audience what was going to be there. And then, yeah, I didn't get as far as I was planning, though. That's a fact.
well, you got the composition laid out for sure. We could see
Precisely.
the pieces, and we got to see what went into the, I guess the formation of the piece in the whole and the laying down of the tape. And we just got to watch the tearing off of the tape, which was awesome.
Thank you.
Rays of light bursting through. I'm really excited for the 4-minute video. Is that 4 minutes? Is that about what it's going to be?
I think that's an appropriate amount of time. If it's under 8 minutes, I think it's not going to bore anybody. But if I can get it into like a 2-minute format, that'd be awesome. But I don't know the ratio of hours to minutes when it comes to fast forwarding capabilities. So I gotta look into that.
And we're talking about Brian's going to put up a time-lapse video of the entire creation of the mural, which should be awesome to see. You want to talk a little bit about where you got the inspiration for this piece? What made you want to do this?
Yeah, I mean, obviously the listener here can't see it, but what we're looking at is
They can. They just have to go online. It's out there.
All right, perfect. I'm now grasping everything. So yeah, I mean,
Talk to them like they can see it, because I'm assuming everybody right now is just pulling it up on whatever device
Awesome.
they're listening to this on.
awesome. All right. Well, you're looking at a landscape clearly. I'm all in when it comes to performing with colors. I just think just like with music, if I were to be performing music, I'd want bright melodies. I'd want something catchy. I'd want to just be feeding the happy emotion inside of people. And I think bright colors, particularly emphasizing the primary colors, I think that just connects us all to something so basic that it's transcendent and it's sort of cathartic way, I guess. So my goal here was to create a landscape that was dramatic and also very colorful. And I was lucky enough to have gone recently to Hawaii,
Right on.
and I was camping there, and we were just exposed to some of the most beautiful juxtapositions of color I've ever seen in life. Naturally, I mean, there was just exotic colors working together wherever you looked. So it was surreal, and so that's, I guess, a lot of the driving motivation of what makes me want to make a landscape like this.
That's what I heard from everybody that I talked to about your piece last night, was that, wow, it's so bright. There's so many colors. Both of your pieces that you had on display, you really put an emphasis on using the whole palette and the full range. And that's awesome, because it really impacts you in a different way than something that's just kind of, two-tone or monotone. You cross the full range. I mean, you've got the mountains over here with the darkness, and it's going to be the lava, the lights bursting forth, and then the green lushness over here on the other side. So it's amazing composition.
Thank you.
What was it you said earlier about colors, Hawaii being the only place?
Yeah, I mean, I bought a bunch of bright colors for this piece, and the thought was, what kind of landscape could I create where colors this vibrant would ever coexist? And it's like only in Hawaii, man.
Yeah. And you showed me the process earlier where you took
Source photos.
a bunch of different source photos
Sure.
and combined them all into one landscape, but they're all from different, like, completely pure things. But in Hawaii, I imagine you actually could kind of see these kind of things next to each other just that abruptly, or no?
Right, and yes, and maybe this exact layout doesn't exist, but I mean we
Does
were
now.
right. We were next to. I mean, within 45-minute drive, one coast had this, one coast had that. I mean, it was just impeccable landscape. I mean, jungle waterfalls to volcanic ash. Not ash. Volcanic lava glow and flow. And,
Wow.
I mean, it was all close.
And you totally did it right too. I mean, I know a lot of people go to Hawaii on vacation or whatever, but you went guerrilla style, I guess.
That's right. We didn't really want to get exposed too much to the westernization of Hawaii. That's kind of one of the biggest problems the locals have over there, is dealing with
Yeah.
The way that, I mean, no disrespect to America, but we do love consumption, and we do love marketing, and we do love, drawing a crowd, and that's not really what Hawaii is about at all. It's about the spirits that run the beautiful planet that we exist on, and it's a place there where all elements, land, water, fire, and sky, they're all constantly in interchange there. I mean, there's lava that's constantly creating new land flowing out of a volcano. I mean, as it hits the water, it's creating, both steam and heat and landforms all at once.
It's the world of constant change, more so. You talked to me about the spirit of the place and just how friendly everyone was there. And you were saying how you wanted to move there, and just like, yeah, it's the best place in the world. What made it so?
I mean, really, it was the attitude of the locals. It was the people who really understood what Hawaii was. There was just this larger truth that was there, and I think that's there all the time. And we're only allowed to be opinionated in that matter.
Not just in Hawaii.
Right? Yeah. And that's one of the main goals of my art. I'm deeply spiritual when it comes to my art because I don't really feel comfortable being accountable to knowledge and understandings that I've come to learn through personal experiences and trials and just deep interactions with where we are. I feel accountable to acknowledging that I do know with certainty that there are just wonderful forces at play, and there are bad forces at play. And in Hawaii, everyone accepts that life is way beyond what you can see. I mean, one of the reasons I love art is, one of the more oxymoronic things that I do on a regular basis is try to explain in conversation how a lot of what I understand, a lot of what drives me, a lot of what soothes me, a lot of what helps me sleep at night is truths that cannot be reached in conversation, and they were truths that I didn't find in conversation.
Right, that's why we turned to art.
Right, and I'll sit there and talk, and it's just on repeat because at the end of the day, it has to come outside of that. There has to be something within the interpersonal experience that recognizes something on their own, and then in their own mind, their own conscious existence here, in relating with everything, they have to grasp exactly what they're doing in relation to all these other energies that are out there. And that's something that really can't be attained in conversation, and that's one of the forces that really distracts, I think, a lot of people from really grasping the truth on a constant basis. We all get glimpses of it and we feel inspired in certain moments, but then we lose that throughout the day. We've got things to worry about, we've got bills to pay, we've got children to feed, and one of the reasons I love painting is because it's a dialogue that happens in your mind. I mean, as long as you continue looking at it, you'll find something else that I'm still saying to you in my pieces, and that is a conversation that I think we have psychically through the artist and audience relationship, and I value that very, very deeply. So my art tries to reflect that.
Yeah, right on. Well, what you want your art to evoke this happy emotion, but I mean, I guess a little more than that. What going off the star, I guess, more than the mural.
Okay.
Where's the connection there? If you want to talk
as far
about
as what truths am I trying to express there, or I guess I got a little lost with what you define as the connection when you're referring to that piece.
Well, as you were talking about earlier, it's that idea.
The dialogue between.
Right.
So what's the conversation there?
Right. For the mural, I think it's pretty clear that it's a landscape piece. It's bright. It's vivid. It's supposed to make you see contrast and beauty right next to each other, and all the different aspects of life that can be brought together in some beautiful form. And I thought that was so awesome of something that you did. When you showed me the process, I was like, wow, that's what we did at the show. Like that we brought all these different artists in who are these different beautiful extremes of nature, and we somehow put them all in the same building, and
it was majestic. I mean, it really
and that's what this is. Like to me, it's the culmination of the thing is this piece.
Oh, that's awesome thing to say. Thank you so much.
But if we could talk about the star just for a minute, what's the drive, impetus, and motive behind that?
All right. Well, basically, the star piece kind of sets the platform for the idea of a conversation that happens psychically. I'm trying to express mysticism in that piece, and it's quite a thing to try to express, but it's what drives so much of my art that it would be ludicrous for me to spend hours in the studio and not be expressing that, because I mean that's what I have to offer to the conversation. So with specifically that piece, there's a woman figure And the whole inspiration for this piece comes from a tarot card.
The star, right?
The star, right, and that's why I named it.
Specifically?
Well, the deck that I saw, the original image that inspired me before I went and researched other images, on this woman, was the Aleister Crowley's deck. And I can't actually recall the artist's name that accompanies him, but she's very talented and very symbolic. And basically the star provides a sense of defining a place where she from her own subconscious, she has her own highest point that all of her morals and all of her understandings of her spirituality come from inside of her, things that she's had to come to know to be true. So she sits alone by a lake, basking in the light of her own star, and she represents kind of the independent mystic who has acknowledged that jumping into the world that we see with our plain eyes. I mean, blind people, they don't even see the world we see. How can we think that that's it? Because they're alive and they don't see the world.
They clearly have it.
So there's so much there. Yeah,
wow.
I envy. I wish I could make more of a connection with. I'm not going to get into what I want to do with art and people with visual impairments. But
yeah, don't do that.
No, yeah, that's another podcast because we've got a time that we're trying to.
All right, yeah, no, for sure.
And I'm still talking about
power through.
Yeah, we'll go back to the mysticism. Basically. She has to separate herself. She's at a lake. She's off near nature, and she's basking in what she knows to be truth. And she's had to completely remove herself from society to do that. And that's what I'm trying to capture. Is there's this chaotic background that could represent whatever you want. That's literally how I feel about it. But to me, I see a representative of the chaos that is all these energies trying to work together. But even though all these different colors happen to make beauty and chaos, there's no real harmony sometimes, except for the accidental way that everything sort of plays into each other, even those bad and good things that we don't realize are working together. And so that's what the lines in that piece symbolize. They're a guide of concepts. So they direct you through her heart and then up through her mind, her thought and crown chakra. And
that's
then,
the spiral coming out of the top left.
No. These are the lines that are the really thin straight lines. They're what I consider the concept guides. They're the flow of the piece. They're like if you're going to really work through the conversation, you follow the lines. They start over in the lake, in the world.
That's where your eyes should run.
Right, and then it takes you up to the woman through her heart, and then another stream coming around and jumping through her mind, and then bouncing up off the ether, and all of a sudden it's making a loop and tying all right back to the girl, and in the meantime, it's outlined this eye. And the eye, to me, completely represents the objectivity that exists somewhere beyond everybody's individual paradigm. Like, we all are only privileged to see the world from our own personal perspectives. And the eye represents that no matter how personal you think life is, no matter what, there is some idea that there has to be a way to objectively look at all of these lives without being attached to either one of them. Wow. And in specific. So the eye represents that objective viewer that may or may not exist, but the concept surely can drive some ideas of maybe perspective with how we actually do fit into this world, and how it's not so much an ego trip and a self-quest as it is kind of a chance to gain perspective while we're here. And so that piece really tries to show you basically that.
So the focus of the piece is the woman, right, who, as you said earlier, is isolating herself by this lake, this river, and then gaining this kind of inspiration from the isolation. So how does?
Well, because there's the idea that a lot is going on in our minds, and that through meditation and through disciplines we can actually connect to truths that exist. And this is exactly what I'm talking about when I say I often try to do in conversation talk about things that have to be learned outside of conversation, and that paradox applies to this this podcast here. But what I'm talking about is there is, and people can argue this all you want. I'm going to say it confidently because that's my that's the reason I'm making my stuff.
If you're going to say it confidently.
That's right. So there is so much to gain by silencing ourselves and going inward, because there's so much exposed to us that we haven't maybe taken the time to really collate and depict and really rearrange outside of the linear timeline that we experienced in, maybe more graphically put up what we've really been through in our lives and see that the interrelationships between a good mood and a good decision and a bad mood and a bad decision. And, things start to reveal themselves that you realize, when I wasn't taking care of my body and mind, my life went a certain way. I mean, that's not all in time. A lot of that happens years apart. You might get cancer from something you did 10 years before, and for those 10 years, you didn't feel like you were decreasing in any way, but you had already, done something that affected you outside of the timeline. So there's so much, that you can really, and Pat was emphasizing this with his installation too, with the idea of meditation and singling it down to this kernel of energy that just is what is. And I mean, any of us could learn so much by just, reflecting, and that's what she's doing, and that's the nature of the lake, is reflective, so that sort of sets the archetype tone.
I mean, the first piece of that piece of art that I'm drawn to is the lake in the lower right, because it's so calm. The rest, there's so much going on that my eyes run to the bottom right out of fear, and just
it's scary. It is.
It's the refuge. But then, you follow the lines, and this is something that I wouldn't have got without having talked to you and had this conversation, is the full composition of the piece. And it, just like your mural, you break it into these little parts that all feed each other in a majestic way. So you start in the lake, in this calm down at the bottom, and it pulls up into this chaos that's pouring out onto this woman, and then you follow it through, and it gains that further perspective, and then it comes back, and it feeds back in, and somehow I always end up back at the lake.
Yeah, well, everything is supposed to be, in a sense, her hair flow, her body flow, and what she's pouring on her, although it looks as chaotic as the background, and it is, because it encompasses so many different things.
Maybe even more so.
Right. It's actually defined in my terms as her mysticism, and that's the way the tarot card portrays this woman. She's pouring a bucket of like a flowing golden sort of, ethereal mix, and I've recreated that with my, take on every color, in the spectrum represents a different part of life, maybe a different chakra, if you will, to represent kind of more color coding for the listener. But basically the idea that each color does represent a different part of life. Maybe the blue represents the intellectual pursuits in life, while the red might be more about grounding yourself here on earth and the life force and, your blood. And then there's the yellow, which is sort of that spiritual light that, that comes into the world. A lot of the yellows in this world have a very high spiritual sort of vibration with how we receive them. I mean, there's just so much energy out of yellows.
I can't ignore the metallic purple as long as we're talking on this sign.
So that represents so deeply the idea of truth and spiritual, like truth and spirit. Like that star is radiating spiral waves of deep universal cosmic knowledge, and she's being doused in it. She's shrouded in metallic purple, and that sheen represents her basking in truth, and that's why she's had to leave the city lights and the chaos, so that she can be alone and be under her star and truly soak in what is real here and what is just perceived. And her mysticism is just her bathing in the faith and the balance of all craziness that is.
Really amazing piece, dude. How long have you been working on this thing? Because there's a lot that goes into this, clearly.
Yeah, I actually started working on it in 2010 in October. I did maybe 20 hours in the studio, and then the whole thing was me prepping this panel, because I had gotten to do a live piece in downtown Austin at a venue where a couple DJs and musicians were going to be playing. So my goal was to, bring something really entertaining to the table, and that's when I got to the woman. I brought all of her texture and all of her colors out, and as well as the eye. I brought all of that out for the audience, and that was something that was big and gestural and, lots of movement, so that they could be engaged in what I was doing and feel the concepts getting created, so that there really was a sense of achievement during the show.
Very much what you did with your live mural piece.
Exactly. And, I kind of missed the target a little bit more on the mural than I was hoping to, but, some of the effect was still there. But then with that piece, then it kind of sat for a while, because I was so pleased with it, and there was so much I needed to do, but I was just so happy that it had gotten to a place where I had envisioned it, and I had just let it ruminate, if you will, for a while, and then in the last couple of months in preparation for this show and getting everything ready, I decided it was time to wrap this piece up, and I probably put an additional 30 hours or so into it over the last 4 weeks, and it's been a journey that I've really valued. It's taken me back to a time when I was really focused on these concepts, and the nature of life is distraction to some extent. So it's been really great to be refreshed with this piece, and it's brought a lot to me, and I feel like I've gotten to bring a lot to it in the last 4 weeks. I've also been inspired in my own ways in the last 2 years that have provided me with, more insight to add to it, more depth, more love. So
right on, and hopefully you bring that to other people, because it is truly amazing.
Yeah, I hope so as well.
So, do you like doing it like live art? Is that really the draw? Because that's how this piece started, and then it got refined, and you did a live art piece tonight. Would you say that that's more of your medium?
I'd say there's two modalities to my art. One of them, and this goes back to kind of me as a nature. I'm a Capricorn and a Sagittarius, and the fire side of me, the bright, like spontaneous, creative energy that is fire. I mean, it's dangerous, but it's creative. That part of me absolutely loves large-scale expression for people to behold and to share in, because it really is cathartic and sort of a transcendent way to watch someone depict a balance of colors, because we could literally speak about everything that's happened in our lives through the coding of colors. I mean, we could talk about everything in the blue moments in our life and how they've affected all the red moments, and we could avoid any language that seems conventional and still express everything we're trying to express. And that is what gives me so much room for excitement in art, is that colors can keep coming, and there's another layer there. And I mean, yeah, there's definitely the live draw to that. On the other hand, there's the earth side in me. There's the Capricorn that just loves the process, that loves meticulous detailing, that loves photorealism, that loves things that I cannot possibly try to attain in a live performance, because, well, and you see people doing this, and it's one of the things I get kind of weirded out by some of the live art, is that people will have paintings and they'll be doing meticulous detailing that you could only see if you were standing in front of them, because their hand is practically blocking everything they're doing. And I remember before I was painting live getting frustrated watching that happen and not feeling like I connected with the art, and it felt more self-gratifying to just be finishing a piece in front of people than to really be sharing love with them in some form, some radiant form. I mean, to me, if there was a deaf person that wanted to come to a concert, they could be watching a concert. They could be feeling music take place because of colors. I mean, what you see in music, there's melody, there's rhythm, there's pattern, there's harmony. All those things can be present in painting. You can have a melody with how you create the colors, what pattern you go through, whether you do all your yellows and then your pinks and then your blues and then you repeat that, and that's the rhythm. And then how you build images. I mean, there's so much rhythm to kind of keeping the flow of a piece that really can drive it. And it's the same thing when working on a song. I mean, it's really synthetic in that sense, that it is just so parallel to the idea of live music for me, making live art, that I really do enjoy performing alongside musicians. And particularly, I want to be reaching out to people who are audio impaired, because I think that is something that might be missing in their community. And I'm a little ignorant on what is out there in the performance world for audio impaired people, but I do know that there are so many concerts where I don't feel like there is an outlet for them to really enjoy much other than the bass lines, and
visceral.
Right, exactly, yeah, and those sonar vibrations are so deep and powerful, but it'd be cool to have something else.
I can share some science with you.
Sure.
I read an article recently that there's a guy who's colorblind.
Wow.
And he met with an electronic neuroengineer while he was at college. And the guy built him a device that hooks up to his brain and plugs into the back of his neck. And when it's a camera, and the colors that it detects feed him sounds through his bones.
Wow.
They feed him different frequencies of waves through his entire body. So now he can experience color through a different sense altogether. It's not really hearing. It's a all-encompassing. I mean, he hears the tones too, but they really hit through his whole body, and he's able to experience color in that way. And I don't know. I just thought it was relevant because
that's super pertinent.
There's a really cool. There are ways that technology is making that capable nowadays, and maybe it's going to happen more on an individual level. But I really do like the idea that you're trying to reach out to all forms of media. And you kind of created a duality earlier, where you set up this. There's like more of a broad base emotional standpoint from art that comes out, I guess, more in live performance, and then there's more of a refined technical aspect that maybe comes out afterwards in the refining. And I think that's true for across all kinds of art. Like with a band, when they put on a show, they're trying to create a feel and have a live environment and maybe be a little spontaneous on stage. But when they go into the studio to record an album, they're trying to be precise and really get all their licks down and hit the notes exactly. And with visual arts, too, it seems like what you were saying is there's that dual side of it. When you make it a performance thing, you want it to be broad and impactful and get people excited about the composition of things, but then you have to go in afterwards and really refine down and make it that formed piece.
That's right.
That you want to. And that's really awesome that you're able to recognize both sides and bring them both into your art.
Yeah, I mean, it can be a little nerve-wracking because, you know, especially at an art show where there's wonderful talent like Eliana and Pat and Lydia, I mean, they're bringing so much to the table that it's competitive and it drives you in a good way. But it also, I mean, you know, if I was prone to self-doubting more, it could be crippling because you get worried about, well, am I going to really get a chance to technically kind of represent my skill level here, or am I going to seem rudimentary or juvenile with my approach?
That seems like the wrong vibe for the live thing.
Exactly,
you had pigtails, you little
right?
kid.
Yeah, exactly. No, well,
I'm saying, but you had fun.
Exactly, and that's something that I get to overcome, and that's a really big sense of reward for me. I guess is what I was trying to get at. That because there is a voice inside of me, just like all of us, that wants to doubt and wants to be afraid. And
fuck that guy.
Yeah, right. So yeah, it's cool to get to really see something develop. I mean, this is one of the larger pieces I've ever gotten to do. Maybe the largest I've done. I've done a piece bigger than this only since that it was 3 walls, but this wall is much bigger than any one of those walls were, and so it's pretty comfortable in size. But it just feels vast compared to things I've gotten to really work on before. So this has been a wonderful opportunity for me to really get to stretch my limbs, if you will.
Right on. And pull from a huge environment of artists.
Yeah,
create this
a lot of artistic energy going on last night.
Really awesome. You fed off it really great.
Thank you.
Yeah, no, I'm just blown away by both of your pieces, and one probably because I'm into the tarot thing and I know the star and and the symbols and the esoteric things and all that good stuff. What you said about color really gives me another take on everything that you do, because it's something that I maybe don't have an appreciation for. I like Pat. The piece of art that I bought last night was one of Pat's line drawings. It was just ink on paper, and you bring another dimension to it that I'm really not fully appreciative of. But man, the depth that you talked about it at was really, really, really great.
Oh, thanks, man. That's a pretty sincere thing to say. Yeah, I mean, design is so cool. I mean, Pat is such a skilled designer. I mean, he does so much. With just kind of laying out really, really cool images, stuff that really grabs you, and that's what I'm trying to do with my colors. It's a similar thought. That's my pull isn't from, that literal directness that I've envied at times in artists, and then, but at the end of the day, I really do just passionately love just throwing colors on your face. Just I feel like it just enables the viewer to breathe, because it's the only time I can breathe is when it's just fully realized for me, and that's what color does.
Well, that makes a lot of sense too, because some pieces of art can kind of make you hold your breath and be like what? And there's a weird wonder and distance from it, and then there are other ones that you look at and you're just like, wow. I don't know. It's more it's more of an exhale than an inhale when
Precisely.
You see it, and that's amazing, man. It's great.
Thanks, brother.
No problem, man. Is there anything else you want to plug? Anything else we want to get going? Next shows? I know there's going to be more art.
Yeah, in May we've got a show coming up, hopefully at a little site development area that's building up in downtown Dallas called the Trinity Bridge Project. And they just opened at the beginning of March, so they're really young, but their whole thought is incubation of young art, mostly culinary art. They've got a culinary institute they're opening up, and they're going to have smaller restaurants with new hot chefs in the area, kind of give them a restaurant to develop, and then once it gets a following, send them off to go fly out the nest, if you will,
and put more art in their restaurants, right?
Exactly. So it's cool. We're going to be getting to kind of partner with them in their early stages of really bringing the creative feel to the space. We've been asked to do a couple shows with them, hopefully, and I might not really be allowed to talk about much because it's all tentative and nothing's been signed or anything like that. But the exciting thing is that we are going to have, an opportunity to bring another performance to the community, and it'll be in a place that's really burgeoning with the idea of baby art, new art, getting some exposure to things that haven't really been seen or tasted yet. So it'll be really cool to be around that kind of scene as opposed to, some of the other things that you normally get to do when you're dealing with the art performance world.
How do you do that? Because I know you're from Dallas, but you're an Austin artist, and so Austin's your main community. You're coming up here to Dallas to do some shows. How do you really get to expose your stuff? How do you get to do what you do?
Luckily, I know these guys.
Yeah.
I mean, it's pretty good to have friends in your corner who love your art and love putting on events. It makes it pretty easy to just cooperate. They basically, if you will, direct me into situations that I get to shine in. So it's pretty wonderful relationship. I hope I bring to the table as much as they've brought for me.
No. Easily. I mean, that's great to hear, though. It's a natural kind of community-based thing where it just kind of happens.
Yeah, and I've got a great family in Dallas that I love coming and visiting, and I've known people since birth here, so I don't mind. The 3-hour and whatever road trip that it takes to get here. Yeah, I don't want to live here, but I do love being here.
I think Dallas may need it more. Austin may be a cool place to live, but we need there needs to be more of this going on up here. And, thanks for contributing, man, and everybody who went into it to make it the great event that it was. It really was amazing.
Thanks, man. I agree. It was a special night.
Yeah. Well, right on, Brian. Is there anything else you want to say to the folks? Anywhere they can find your stuff if they want to get in contact, maybe?
No, man. I'm all about that grassroots. Come get to know me. Come find me. Come see some stuff. I don't really like technology. I don't really like the internet. So I haven't really put anything up there. Some people have put some stuff on Facebook that we've photographed, but it's never complete, so I kind of get frustrated with that. But
I like it though. Brian Bedford, come find him. He's in Dallas. He'll be putting on shows, and he's in Austin too.
Thanks, man. It's great talking to you.
Right on, man. It was awesome. Thanks,
Aaron.
Yeah.